I've always believed that relationships are built on trust, respect, and a mutual understanding. My wife Jessica and I had what I thought was a solid marriage. We've been together for 6 years, married for 3, and I never had any reason to doubt her loyalty until I did. There were signs, little things that didn't seem significant at first, but looking back, they were glaring red flags. Like that time she started working late more often. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she was just trying to climb the corporate ladder at her job. Jess is ambitious, and I admired that about her. But then I noticed she was taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom, and she was oddly secretive about her texts. I tried to ignore my unease, convincing myself I was being paranoid. One day, I found her hoodie stuffed in the back of our closet while searching for my old jacket. It was a simple black hoodie, but it had become a symbol of the trust I was losing. As I pulled it out, a wave of confusion washed over me. Why was it hidden? Was she hiding it from me? The sight of it made my heart race, and I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. I wore it as I walked out of the closet, leaving my jacket behind. Then came the fateful evening when everything fell apart. I had planned a surprise dinner for Jess, hoping to rekindle some of the spark we had lost. I made her favorite dish, lit some candles, and poured a glass of wine. I was ready to confront her about the things that had been bothering me, but when she walked through the door, I noticed something was off. She was dressed up, too fancy for a casual dinner at home, and she smelled like someone else's perfume. It should have been a cozy night, but I felt the tension mounting as we sat down to eat. I watched her, trying to gauge her mood, but she was evasive. After a few bites of dinner, I couldn't keep it in any longer. "Jess, is there something you want to tell me?" She looked up, her eyes wide, and for a moment I thought she would come clean. Instead, she scoffed. "What do you mean?" "Of course not, it's just work stress." I pushed a bit harder. "You've been acting strange for weeks. Is there someone else?" Her reaction was instant and defensive. "You're being ridiculous. I can't believe you'd even suggest that." She slammed her fork down and glared at me. The anger in her voice was palpable, and I could feel my heart sink further into my stomach. Suddenly, my mind was a whirlwind of memories and emotions. I remembered the late nights, the secretive behavior, the hoodie buried in our closet. Everything seemed to point to one thing, and yet she was denying it with such venom. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Jess, I'm not crazy. Just be honest with me. If there's someone else, I need to know." I didn't want to accuse her without proof, but the more I looked into her eyes, the more I felt like I was losing her. She crossed her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "What proof do you need? I'm not cheating on you. You're just insecure, and it's really annoying." Her words stung, and I felt a lump forming in my throat. I hadn't wanted to believe my worst fears. But as we sat there, the weight of her accusations making me feel small, I realized that I was losing my wife and I needed to know the truth. That night I didn't sleep. I barely even touched my dinner. Anger and doubt swirled in my mind, and when dawn broke, I made a decision. I would find out for certain if my wife was cheating on me, and I wouldn't rest until I knew the truth. I had to know what was happening behind my back, and I had to prepare myself for whatever I might find. Little did I know that the next few days would change everything. The days that followed were a blur of anxiety and dread. I felt like a detective in my own life, constantly looking for clues about Jessica's potential infidelity. I started paying closer attention to her habits and routines, seeking any slip-up that might confirm my fears. I began to notice her phone was glued to her side, and she'd often leave the room when texts rolled in. At first, I tried to play it cool, but the more I observed her behavior, the more I felt like I was being pushed out of my own home. One day, she received a text while we were sitting on the couch together. I glanced over, catching the name Mark flash across her screen. The name rang a bell. He was a coworker she had mentioned in passing. I felt my heart race as she quickly shoved her phone into her pocket, avoiding my gaze. That evening, I casually brought him up in conversation. "So, how's work with Mark going? You guys seem to be getting close." It was a shot in the dark, but I needed to gauge her reaction. Jessica tensed up, her eyes narrowing as she responded, "Why do you care? He's just a coworker. You're being paranoid." The defensive tone in her voice was unmistakable. My stomach churned as I realized that I wasn't imagining things. There was something more going on, and I felt the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. The following night, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't just wait around for her to come clean. I needed proof. I waited until she fell asleep, and then I crept into her office, where she often left her phone charging. With my heart pounding, I picked up the device, my hands shaking with a mix of adrenaline and fear. I unlocked her phone using the facial recognition feature she had set up. Thankfully, she was a heavy sleeper. The first thing that caught my eye was a series of messages between her and Mark. They were flirty, loaded with innuendos, and hinted at secret meetings. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My worst fears were coming to life with every word, every smirk emoji. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the phone. My heart raced as I read through the messages, my anger boiling over. They were planning to meet after work, discussing how much they enjoyed each other's company. I couldn't process what I was seeing. This was my wife, the woman I loved, the mother of my future children, and here she was, exchanging intimate messages with another man. In that moment, I felt a rush of emotions, betrayal, anger, and a deep sadness that encased me like a fog. I wanted to wake her up, confront her right then and there, but I knew I had to stay calm. I needed to think this through. I decided to gather more evidence before I confronted her. Over the next few days, I kept a close eye on her schedule, nodding when she left and returned home. The more I observed, the more I found myself spiraling into a pit of despair. She would often leave at odd hours, and I felt like a ghost in my own home, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then came the day of the planned meetup. I logged into her work calendar, which she had shared with me for ease of planning, and saw a note for a team dinner with Mark. I knew this wasn't work-related. It was their excuse to see each other, and I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I had to confront her. I couldn't let this continue. I thought about how I'd approach the conversation. Would I be calm, or would I explode? I debated whether to confront her before the dinner or wait until she returned home. In the end, I chose to face her before she could cover her tracks. The moment I saw her getting ready, I felt that familiar knot in my stomach tighten. I walked into our bedroom where she was applying her makeup. "Hey, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "I'm kind of busy right now, John. I have that dinner." "Yeah, I know about the dinner," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. "We need to talk about you and Mark." Her eyes widened and I could see the panic starting to set in. "What are you talking about? This is ridiculous." I took a deep breath, holding up her phone. "I know everything, Jess. I've seen the messages." The color drained from her face and she looked like a deer caught in headlights. In that moment, I knew I had her. The confrontation I had been anticipating for so long was finally happening, and I was ready for the fallout. The air in the room was electric, charged with tension as Jessica's eyes darted around, searching for a way out of the situation. I stood there, the weight of my revelations pressing down on me, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I had waited for this moment, but now that it was here, I felt strangely detached, as if I were watching a scene unfold from a distance. "John, you don't understand," she began, her voice wavering, but I cut her off. "I understand perfectly. You've been lying to me, hiding things from me. I saw the messages between you and Mark." I held her phone up, letting my words hang in the air thick with accusation. Her face twisted in anger, but there was a hint of fear behind her eyes. "I can explain." "It's not what you think," she shot back, her defenses rising as she instinctively took a step back. "Then explain it to me." I kept my voice steady, refusing to back down. "What is it? Are you two having an affair?" "Not like that. We're just friends, and yes, I'll admit we've flirted a bit, but it's not serious." She crossed her arms, trying to appear defiant, but I could see the cracks starting to form in her armor. "Not serious. Jess, this isn't just flirting. You've been planning to meet him." "That's more than just friends." I stepped closer to her, the frustration boiling over. "How could you do this to us, to our marriage?" She huffed, rolling her eyes. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. You've been distant lately, and I was just trying to find some excitement. Is that such a crime?" The words stung, cutting deeper than I expected. Excitement? You think betraying me is exciting? You've shattered my trust. I didn't mean to hurt you, she exclaimed, her voice rising, realizing the gravity of the situation. It just happened, okay? You were so absorbed in your work and I felt alone. Alone? I scoffed, incredulous. You thought cheating was the answer. What about communicating? What about working on our relationship? She opened her mouth to respond but then faltered. For a moment her bravado faltered and I saw a glimpse of guilt flash across her face. I didn't want it to go this far, she finally admitted, her voice softer. I thought I could just have fun on the side and still keep my marriage intact. It was infuriating to hear her say that, as if she were downplaying the destruction she'd caused. You do get to make that choice for me, Jess. It's not just your marriage, it's ours. The anger surged within me, fighting against the deep sadness that was threatening to drown me. What do you even want from all of this? I don't know, she shouted, the frustration spilling over. I just wanted to feel desired again. I missed the excitement of when we first started dating. I took a step back, the weight of her words crashing down around me. So you thought that cheating would bring that back? What you're doing is not just a mistake, it's a choice you made that affects both of us. Tears filled her eyes and she pressed her palms to her face. I was stupid, okay? I was trying to escape from the boredom of everyday life and I didn't think it would escalate like this. This isn't just a mistake. You're in love with him, aren't you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Jessica shook her head vigorously, but I saw the hesitation in her eyes. No, it's not like that. I'm confused and I didn't want to hurt you. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I processed what I was hearing. Confusion doesn't justify betrayal, Jess. You've made your choice clear. You're the one who wanted this excitement, and I don't think it's fair to say that you didn't want to hurt me. A long silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken truths. I could see the battle waging within her, the guilt battling against her pride. But I knew that this conversation wouldn't change what had happened. In that moment, I had to decide how to move forward. The anger still simmered beneath the surface, but I also felt a profound sadness. I loved her despite everything I did, but love wasn't enough to fix the damage she had done. I don't know if I can get past this, Jess, I said, my voice low. I don't know if I can trust you again after this. She stared at me, her expression shifting into one of desperation. Please don't say that. I can fix this. I'll end things with Mark, I promise. Just give me a chance. Can you really? How can I believe anything you say right now? I let the question linger in the air, watching the emotions play across her face. She opened her mouth to respond, but I could see the realization dawning on her. I had been shattered by her betrayal, and I needed time to figure out what I wanted. The question was, could I ever truly move forward from this? After that confrontation, I felt like I was living in a fog. The emotional toll was exhausting, and I struggled to make sense of everything that had just happened. Jessica pleaded for another chance, insisting that she would end things with Mark, but I was left grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. The trust that had once defined our relationship felt irreparably broken. For days, the house was filled with silence. Jessica tried to act normal, returning to her daily routine, but the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words. I found it impossible to look at her without feeling a surge of betrayal. Each glance at her felt like a reminder of the intimacy she shared with another man, and I couldn't shake the image of her hiding that hoodie in our closet, as if trying to erase the truth from existence. I spent my time outside of work packing around our neighborhood, trying to clear my head. I would often take long walks, reflecting on our relationship, our shared dreams, and how everything had fallen apart. I even considered the possibility of reaching out to a therapist to help me process my feelings, not just about what she did, but about how I had let things slide for so long. Then came the day when I decided to confront Jessica again. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, nor could I ignore the fact that I felt utterly alone in this. I returned home from work, took a deep breath, and called her into the living room. Jess, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady but heavy with the weight of our situation. She looked up from the couch where she had been scrolling through her phone and nodded, her expression serious. Okay. She had been waiting for this moment as much as I had. Where do we go from here? I started, struggling to find the right words. You've said you want to fix things, but how do you expect me to trust you again? I can't just pretend like what you did didn't happen. I know, she said, her voice soft. I don't expect you to just forgive me, but I want to show you that I'm serious about making things right. I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I echoed, feeling skeptical. What does that even mean? I need more than just words, Jess. I need to see action. I need to know you're committed to this marriage and that you'll cut off all contact with Mark. She nodded, her eyes wide with sincerity. I will, I promise. I'll block him and tell him I can't see him anymore. I just want us to work on our marriage. As I listened to her, I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by the doubt that had taken up residence in my mind. And how do I know you won't just go back to him once things settle down? How do I know you won't keep lying? I'll go to couples therapy with you. I'll be completely open about everything. I want to make this work, John. I love you and I do. Want to lose you over a stupid mistake. Her words hung in the air, and for the first time since the confrontation, I saw a glimmer of vulnerability in her eyes. The facade of confidence she had been holding onto was cracking, and I felt a twinge of sympathy. But sympathy wasn't enough to heal my wounded heart. I want to believe you, I admitted, but I'm struggling. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. The thought of you with him, it's haunting me. I'll do anything to prove to you that I can be better, she said, her voice earnest. Just give me the chance. We've built a life together and I don't want to throw it all away. I took a moment to process her words. The thought of ending our marriage was unbearable, yet the betrayal still felt raw. I thought about the life we had created together, the plans we had made for the future, the house, the trips, the dreams. Would it all be for nothing? I need time to think, I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. Even if you cut contact with him, I still need to process everything. I can't just jump back into a relationship when I'm feeling so hurt. Jessica's expression shifted and I could see the fear creeping in. I understand. Just please don't shut me out completely. I want to fight for us. Her desperation pulled at my heartstrings, and I couldn't deny the love that still lingered beneath the layers of betrayal. But I couldn't rush into forgiveness either. I needed to figure out what I truly wanted, what would be best for both of us in the long run. I decided to take a step back, both emotionally and physically. I started spending more time at work, using my hours as a distraction. I joined a local gym and threw myself into physical fitness, hoping that exercise might clear my mind. I needed to reclaim some sense of control over my life, something that felt shattered in the wake of her betrayal. As I lifted weights and pushed myself through grueling workouts, I began to feel a semblance of strength return. I started to ponder the possibility of therapy, both couples and individual, as a way to navigate this murky territory. I wanted to explore whether what we had was worth salvaging or whether it was time to let go completely. Days turned into weeks and the silence in the house persisted. Jessica continued to reach out, trying to show me she was committed to change, but the echoes of her betrayal haunted me. I knew I had a decision to make, one that would shape the rest of our lives forever. But what would that decision be? I still didn't know. Time passed like molasses, thick and sticky, as I navigated through the emotional turmoil of the past few weeks. Each day felt like a cycle of doubt and reflection. I couldn't shake the memories of Jessica's betrayal, but I also couldn't ignore the moments we had shared. The love, the laughter, the good times that had initially brought us together. It was a conflicting experience, tugging me in opposite directions. Jessica remained persistent in her efforts to show me she wanted to salvage our marriage. She attended therapy sessions alone and encouraged me to join her. I watched her closely, looking for signs of sincerity. She began leaving her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter and openly discussed her work, her friends, and even her emotions about what had happened. I could see she was trying, but my heart was still heavy with mistrust. One night after I had returned home late from work, I found her waiting for me in the living room. She had set the mood with soft lighting and candles, a stark contrast to the tension that had filled our home for weeks. As I walked in, I felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "Hey," she said softly, a nervous smile on her face. "I thought we could talk." I nodded cautiously, taking a seat on the edge of the couch. "What's on your mind?" I've been thinking a lot about us and what we need to do moving forward. I really want to make this work, John. She took a deep breath, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. I want to show you how committed I am. I've made an appointment for us both to see a couples therapist next week. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical yet intrigued. You think that will solve everything? It's a start, she replied earnestly. I want us to have a safe space to talk about our feelings and work through this together. I know I messed up and I want to make it right. There was a sincerity in her voice that tugged at my heart, but I was still hesitant. What if it doesn't work? What if we just end up fighting more? Then we'll figure it out together, she said, her voice filled with determination. I'm willing to put in the effort and I hope you are too. I appreciated her willingness to try, but I still felt stuck in the past. How could I move forward when the scars of betrayal were still so fresh? I took a moment to gather my thoughts before responding. I don't know, Jess. I want to believe you, but I'm scared. This is going to take time for me. I understand, she said, her expression softening. I'm not expecting you to forgive me overnight. I just want the chance to prove that I can be the partner you deserve. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. I couldn't deny the flicker of hope that her words ignited within me, but I also couldn't ignore the fear that accompanied it. Eventually, I nodded, albeit reluctantly. Okay, I'll go to therapy with you, but you have to promise me that you'll be honest with me moving forward. No more secrets, no more lies. I promise, she said, and for the first time in a long while, I saw a glimmer of relief in her eyes. As the day of our first couples therapy session approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and trepidation. I had read about how such sessions could be intense and raw, forcing couples to confront uncomfortable truths, but I also knew it could be a necessary step toward healing. When we arrived at the therapist's office, I felt a knot in my stomach. Jessica squeezed my hand reassuringly as we walked inside, and for a moment, I was reminded of the connection we once shared. The therapist was warm and inviting, creating an atmosphere where both of us could speak openly. After a few pleasantries, she encouraged us to share our feelings about the situation. I feel betrayed, I said, my voice shaky but resolute. I loved her and she chose to be with someone else. It's hard for me to trust her now. The therapist nodded, acknowledging my pain. Jessica, how does that make you feel? I know I messed up and I'm sorry for hurting John, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I didn't realize how much my actions would impact him. I've been trying to be better and I want him to see that. As we continued to talk, I found myself slowly opening up, sharing my thoughts and frustrations. I expressed my fears of not being able to trust her again, of wondering if our marriage could ever return to what it once was. With each session, the weight on my shoulders began to lift, if only slightly. The therapist guided us through exercises that helped us communicate better and encouraged us to express our emotions in a safe space. Jessica remained open and vulnerable, often crying as she recounted her feelings of loneliness and insecurity that had led her down that path. With every session, I started to feel the walls I had built around my heart slowly crumbling. I realized that while the betrayal was devastating, I still loved her. I still wanted to make this work, but it required both of us to be fully committed to the process. Weeks turned into months, and we began to see small changes in our relationship. Jessica was working hard to regain my trust, and I was starting to believe that she genuinely wanted to make things right. We were learning to communicate better, and there were moments of laughter and connection that crept back into our lives. But even as we made progress, I knew the road to recovery was long. I had moments of doubt and insecurity, and I often found myself questioning whether I was making the right choice by staying. I sought support from friends and family, leaning on them to help me process my emotions. As we continued to navigate this tumultuous journey together, I learned to take things one step at a time. I recognized that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but I felt a new sense of hope blossoming. Hope that maybe we could emerge from this stronger than before. However, I also knew that I couldn't ignore the lessons I had learned through this painful experience. The question remained, could I truly forgive her? Would I ever be able to trust her again completely? I still didn't have all the answers, but for now I was willing to try. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it, both with Jessica and within myself. As the months rolled on, the therapy sessions became a cornerstone of our rebuilding process. I won't lie, there were days when I felt like giving up and walking away. The weight of betrayal still lingered, and flashes of doubt invaded my mind at the most unexpected moments. Each time I saw Jessica's phone light up, I felt a jolt of anxiety. Would it be him? Would she be lying again? But with every session, we peeled back the layers of our relationship, slowly revealing the raw, vulnerable emotions hiding beneath the surface. We learned to communicate honestly, voicing our fears and insecurities without the fear of judgment. As we explored the past, I began to understand not only Jessica's motivations but my own as well. I realized that I had been so caught up in work and daily life that I had neglected the emotional connection between us. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I turned to her and said, "You know, I never thought we'd be here after everything that happened, but I'm starting to feel like we can rebuild what we lost." She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. "I feel it too. I know I hurt you deeply and I'm so sorry. I'm grateful every day that you're giving us another chance." In that moment, I saw the sincerity in her eyes and it tugged at my heart. I realized that forgiveness wouldn't mean forgetting. It would mean choosing to move forward despite the pain. I had spent so long wrestling with the idea of forgiveness, wondering if it was possible, if it was worth it. But now I could see a path ahead. As the weeks went by, we found ways to reconnect emotionally and physically. We began going on regular date nights, attempting to rediscover the joy we once shared. We laughed, reminisced, and slowly reestablished our intimacy. I felt the walls I had constructed begin to crumble brick by brick. Yet there were challenges. There were nights when memories of her betrayal would surge to the surface, and I would find myself feeling resentful. But during those moments, we learned to address those feelings openly. Jessica would sit beside me, holding my hand, reminding me that we were in this together. One night, after a particularly tough day, I came home and found Jess waiting for me at the door. She had prepared dinner, and the room was filled with the scent of my favorite meal. I watched her as she lit candles, a look of determination on her face, and I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. She was fighting for us, and I knew I wanted to fight too. As we sat down to eat, I found myself reflecting on how far we had come. I took a deep breath and said, "I've been thinking about the future. I know we've still got a long way to go, but I want us to make new plans together." "What do you mean?" she asked, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "I mean, let's talk about our goals. I want to know what you envision for us moving forward. I want to plan a trip, maybe even start talking about kids again." Her face broke into a radiant smile, and I could see the hope shining in her eyes. "Really? That would be amazing. I want to travel together and explore new places. And yes, I want to talk about a family too." As we shared our dreams and desires, I felt a sense of warmth enveloping us. It was a tangible reminder of our commitment to building something new together. We were no longer just trying to patch up the remnants of a broken relationship. We were creating something fresh and beautiful. One of the most important lessons I learned throughout this process was that relationships require work. Trust and intimacy can be rebuilt, but it takes time, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Eventually, I came to accept that while the scars of betrayal would always be part of our story, they didn't have to define us. Jessica had shown me that she was committed to change, and I had learned to communicate my feelings openly. As the sun set on another day, I held her hand and whispered, "Thank you for fighting for us. I know we have a long way to go, but I believe we can make it." Her eyes sparkled with hope as she squeezed my hand back, and in that moment I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were on a journey together, navigating the complexities of love, forgiveness, and rebuilding. A journey that would take time and effort, but one that I was willing to embrace. In the end, I realized that while betrayal had tested our relationship, it also offered us a chance to grow, both as individuals and as a couple. We would continue to face challenges together, but the love we had for each other was worth fighting for. Whatever lay ahead, I knew we would face it hand in hand, stronger than before.